name is Inge. I'm part of AB InBev, and I have the honor to kick off one of the afternoon sessions. Very excited to tell you more about AB InBev implementing VMI in our supply chain. So what do I want to talk to you about today? First of all, I give a brief introduction about AB InBev for the ones who don't know our company. Then I want to take you to where are we today within our supply chain at AB InBev. If we know where we are today, where do we want to be? And in order to achieve that, what do we require in order to get there? Now, before going into or providing the introduction about AB InBev, let me give a little introduction about myself. So who am I? My name is Inge. I have a husband who's called Bernard. I have a dog who's called Togo. And I love to do sports. And I'm very lucky that both my dog and my husband love sport too. Apart from the personal, so professionally, I have been working for AB InBev a little bit more than 10 years. I have been doing the full end-to-end supply chain. I started in the brewery operations in Leuven, where I was doing actually shifts. Then I moved to our global procurement department. Afterwards, I went into being responsible for warehousing. I did international logistics to end up 4 years ago in our solutions department, which actually is DIT. And within that solutions department, I'm responsible for digital transformation projects with a focus on logistics. So let's then go about us, about AB InBev. Our purpose of AB InBev is we dream big to create a future with more cheers. And I'll come back to the more cheers later on in my presentation when I talk a little bit more about the strategy of AB InBev. Looking globally, so AB InBev, we have worldwide operations. And here are just a couple of numbers. If you look volume-wise, then we're the biggest in South America. But if you look EBITDA and revenue-wise, then it's North America and Middle Americas. And I'm part of the EMEA region, so in the middle. We're a 50 billion plus company, lots of breweries, more than 200 brewery operations, whereby if we look at Western Europe, we will have about 10 breweries. Lots of people working, very international, lots of brands as well. I'll touch upon a couple of them. More than 500 million hectoliter that we're producing, and we focus as well a lot on innovation, which is an important part of our supply chain and company strategy as well. If you look at our brands, and I assume at least these three. So these are our three global brands which are well known to everybody here. So we have the Budweiser, the Stella Artois, and the Corona. And for the attentive watchers, so you see that for each of the different brands, we have as well the 0.0 alternative. Becomes more and more important. So that's something as well that we as a company are focusing on. If we then look at the strategy. So AB InBev overall, we want to keep it simple, and there are actually 3 pillars that you then should remember as part of our strategy. The first one is the lead and grow the category. So we're actually the category leader in beer, but what we want to become is we want to start leading that category and leading as well the category growth, because beer is local. Beer is inclusive. Beer has the natural ingredients, which are all different terms that resonate, especially today, and which support on that inclusivity and the growth of that category. So there we believe we can do even better. The second pillar is to digitize and monetize our ecosystem. If you look, first of all, towards our customers, so thinking about wholesalers, we actually have access to more than 6 million customers. And if you then afterwards look at the consumers, we have access to more than 2 billion consumers. So think about all the information that we have, think about the understanding that we can get from our consumers and from our customers, and how we can make that win-win relationship, leveraging the digitalization and monetization of our ecosystem. And then the third pillar, optimize our business. We're still a company with shareholders, so it's important that we do wise investments, that we minimize our costs and optimize because of that the business strategy and our business revenue. And so looking today as well, me being part of the IT or the solutions department. So with my use case, I'm going to focus on that second pillar, whereby talking about the digitalization and the monetization, right? So that was a little bit about AB InBev, our company. If we then look at where are we today in our supply chain? Well, I assume because you're all here on the Supply Chain Innovation Day, that you all have something to do with supply chain. So I assume everybody agrees, supply chain is easy, right? It's like riding a bike. Except my bike is on fire. Think about Brexit. All of a sudden, supply chain disruption. What do I need to do with it? What's happening? And you are on fire. COVID. Again, another supply chain disruption. We never had this before. What do I need to do? How do I handle? And everything is on fire. I still remember that I received last March a call from somebody of my team sitting in Ukraine. Inge, bombing has started. What do I need to do? And now I'm talking about people, but as well the impact on our supply chain. What do we do? So supply chain isn't actually that easy. And next to that, looking at our beer category as well, our consumers and customers, they start changing. The consumer profile is changing. And because of that, we need to understand how can we decomplexify our supply chain? How can we make it easier, a bit more simple? Consumers are moved by purpose, responsibility. How do we deliver responsible products? How do we put it as well into our supply chain? And finally, the customer experience. So I talked about that digitalization and monetization, but here as well, that customer experience, leveraging the ecosystem, how do we do that? So that's a little bit about where are we today. Now, where do we want to be? Again, looking at logistics within AB InBev, logistics is themselves the dream. And as logistics, we want to be the best supply chain at AB InBev. And we want to do that by providing a better service towards our customers and consumers. We want to do that at a lower cost every day and in the right way, right? And this, within logistics, we want to do focusing on three strategic pillars, which is first of all, customer centricity. The second pillar is cost management, doing it at the right cost, at lower costs, and world-class execution. And in the end, what we even want to achieve is bring all these three strategic pillars together, right? Connecting customer centricity with managing the right cost and making sure that we still remember that world-class excellence and execution that we're doing. So if that is a dream, if we want to achieve that, what do we now need? And this is where I'm going to start talking about VMI. So VMI at AB InBev, or let's first give the introduction. VMI stands for Vendor Managed Inventory. I don't know. Who is familiar with VMI? If you can raise your hands. Okay, let's say 50-50. So for the ones that already know, it will be a little bit of repetition. So VMI, Vendor Managed Inventory, what we actually do here is managing the inventory from our customer, right? And by doing that, we're able to further reduce the stock levels at our customer sites. So it's impacting cash flow, which is interesting. We get a better view, visibility on the demand and as well the forecasting. And actually, it's us as AB InBev who are placing the orders on behalf of the customer. What does it look like? So I try to make here a simple picture in order to explain it. But if you look, so we as AB InBev, we're the manufacturer. And then you have the warehouse from our retailer who then ships from his warehouse to the shops, right? Our retailer let's take as an example Carrefour. Carrefour owns a warehouse and owns his shops. So we as AB InBev, we replenish to the warehouse, but initially it was Carrefour who was owning their warehouse. With VMI, what we're now doing is we're going to take over the management of the inventory of our stock levels in the warehouse of Carrefour. Of course, there are commercial agreements. What are the min stock levels? What are the maximum stock levels? But actually what we are doing is we're taking over that management and we will we understand what is the inventory of our customers in their warehouses. Based on that, we're going to make a suggestion for an order, which is then the VMI order. And then, depending on the alignment, it's automatically confirmed, or the customer still confirms the order, so we can start with the execution of the order. Okay, so that's very simple. What is VMI about and how does it work? For the technical people here, very high level, if we're looking, so we have the customer ERP. Here, what I mentioned, AB InBev, VMI, the GCR. So here we're working together with a third-party supplier, Generix, and they have this platform, which is called the GCR. And next to it, we have the AB InBev ERP. So what you see is there are actually 3 messages that are flowing in between the ERP of the customer and the third-party supplier platform, the GCR of Generix. And then you have only the order confirmation that actually flows to AB InBev into our ERP system. And this is then the order confirmation that we get and that we can then take in order to do the transport execution. Now, why are we doing this? And so planning of the VMI orders, what are advantages or what are different things that we do take into account? Different factors from the customers that we take into account when we do the planning of the VMI order is, like what I mentioned already before, understanding the stock levels, right? We do get the stock levels of our customers, and then we understand, okay, do we need to further increase or stock levels are fine and we actually do not need to replenish. With that, we understand as well what is the stock that is still in transit. So this we take into account as well in order to manage the stock. We understand the demand and the forecast. Based on that, we can manage as well the orders towards the customers. This will prevent us customers out of stock. So understanding what are the stock levels. Having understanding as well about the forecast, we can way better anticipate if there is going to be an out of stock and do a replenishment on time. And this is important for us. Remember, one of our 3 pillars, the customer centricity, and this means good service levels towards our customers. Taking into account customer promotions as well, and then the delivery of the slot availability. So if you need to do the transport execution, understanding as well that we have the right slots at the customer. Factors within AB InBev taking into account. If we do the orders and we do the replenishments towards our customers, or they have a demand or we input a demand, we understand as well our network, right? We have visibility on the network. So we can anticipate whatever out of stock of SKUs that we're going to have and ensure that we do on-time replenishment towards the warehouses of our customers. We manage as well then the transport capacity in the warehouse, and any force majeure taking into account, we will do it as well when we're doing the planning of the VMI. And then finally, external factors like what you always have, but okay, thinking about weather, holidays, big events, national, local crisis, disaster, all this we can now anticipate and ensure whenever we're doing the replenishments and the order confirmations towards our customers. So why are we now all doing this, and what is then actually the added value? Looking at the benefits for the customer side, it's improving the stock accuracy that you're having. A further reduction as well of the obsolescence, because we're now managing the stock and we can see, okay, what are the SKUs that are going to be close to obsolete and do we need to do anything about it? An improvement of the logistics efficiency and less workload. Why less workload? Before it was a customer who was inputting the orders and managing their inventory. Now AB InBev is taking over that workload. And we do that because we believe with managing that workload, we're able to improve our service levels towards our customers. We're able as well to improve our weight per shipment. So what does that mean? Because we understand what are the orders that we need to send, we can now better group orders, whereby a customer, they need to manage multiple suppliers, right? It's not only AB InBev that is sending goods to the warehouse of a Carrefour, but it's a Coca-Cola and other companies as well. And because of that, they do not always take into account the weight per shipment in the trucks. As we're now responsible for our flow, we will do that. And we will optimize the weight per shipment in the truck. And then finally, customer collaboration. Again, thinking about our 3 strategic pillars, customer centricity is one of them. So the customer collaboration is very important. And this then leads to a win-win partnership. If we then have a look at our customer journey, so where do we come from? So I try to map here, looking at the beginning, We already have been working with VMI for a long time, but it was still on an old platform that we were having from Generix. And it was in 2020 that we actually switched to their new platform, the GCR. So hence, journey starts, let's say, of the new platform just before 2020. And you can see that, on the timeline, gradually, we added more distribution centers of our customers. We added as well more countries, whereby initially we were mainly in Belgium and the Netherlands. We expanded big time as well into France, and additional customers. So additional DCs, additional customers, additional countries. And together with that, like what I already said, it's less workload for the customer, but of course we increased our workload. So we provided additional work opportunities for our teams who are, by the way, sitting in Prague, so they're managing it from our business service centers. Now, having this timeline and looking at this, you say, okay, great. I mean, okay, you went live with lots of DCs, super nice. But remember what I told about the supply chain? We got some disruptions. COVID hit, some IT issues, SKUs that were out of stock, people who were not available, a warehouse that went live but had some difficulties. But despite all the issues that we faced and all the supply chain disruptions, if we're now looking back at the 2-3 years that we have been in this journey, we see that we grew big time. So from 100K hectoliter, we're now managing about 3 million hectoliters a year with our VMI tool. We improved our weight per shipment. We reduced our penalties. So whenever we had a late delivery at our customers, we got penalties. Because we're now managing ourselves at transport, we have been able to reduce that drastically. Again, working on that customer collaboration. I've added here as well, so the 50 positions industry ranking. So it's like a customer advantage report, whereby actually they assess how good is a company in their different towers. And one of the towers is logistics or the supply chain. So there we saw an improvement as well. So looking at this and looking at the results, we clearly saw the benefits or see the benefits of what we have been implementing with vendor managed inventory. If we then look, so I said multiple DCs. So here you have an overview, 4 different countries, between 80 and 100 DCs that we have live, but it depends. So in the summer, you have a bit more DCs because then you have additional warehouses at our customer site. And we have as well different customers who are now using, together with us, the tool. And typically what we're trying to do, so the people that are managing the VMI tool are called VMI experts. Here I've put 1 VMI expert per 6 DCs, but it depends. Typically, we look at the volume. So they deal with about 150 to 250 K hectoliter a year that they need to be able to manage. Then, because I have been talking now that much about the VMI platform, what does it look like, right? Here I put 1 picture of the old user interface, and then you see a picture as well of our current user interface that we're having. So talking again, the advantages of the customer, well, the increased accuracy of the stock replenishments that we're doing, promo execution, improvement of service level. And because we're now supplying multiple countries, because we have 1 team doing that, we can share as well best practices. So if something is not going well in country A and it's going very well in country B, can we do that information exchange among our team members in order to understand how to better actually supply our customers? And then the advantages for our team ourselves, I think everybody can agree that the visual looks already much better. But next to that, the tool performance has improved big time as well. It's much more stable. And with the additional functionalities that we're having, the people are able to better actually manage the SKUs and the flows towards our customers. And this was just an example. So this is typically a view that our VMI planners have on a daily basis. So what you see actually here, typically what they're doing is they go into the tool and then check for all the DCs that we're having per DC, what are now the recommendation of the replenishments that are being suggested. The suggestions that are being done are immediately optimized as well per truckload. And then we try to optimize the truckloads. And based on that, then the changes first will happen or not. And then the execution happens. So this is the overview. What do our VMI experts see? And this is then an overview. So if you look into a specific SKU, then you can actually track. So the blue bars that you're seeing here, this is our stock quantity that we have at the customer side. And then you can very nicely see, so the green bar are our stocks in transit. So each time that the stock in transit arrives, the blue bar goes up because it's more stock at the customer side. And then we have as well the demand quantity, the yellow one, consuming the stock at the customer. So this is then how we're able to manage the stock at the customer's warehouses. And this is now historical evolution, but we have visibility as well on the forecast, which we input then into the tool. And with that, we can estimate the out of stocks. And this is then how we do the replenishments and the managements of the different flows. So having talked then about, I give the introduction about AB InBev. I talked about where are we today within our supply chain. I talked about where we wanted to be and what we required in order to get there. What are the key takeaways? So remember the slide that I showed with the three strategic pillars that we had for logistics at AB InBev. So we have a mentor within AB InBev. Maybe some of you know him, Jim Collins, of the book as well, Good to Great. And he talks about the builders of greatness reject the tyranny of the or and embrace the genius of the end. So we don't want to talk about I can do or customer centricity or cost management. No, we believe we can do focusing on customer centricity, doing that in an efficient way, managing our costs, and at the same time deliver world-class operational execution. And this is where all three come together, right? Embracing the end, go for it, do all three together. And I believe one of the examples that AB InBev has now with the VMI has been delivering that inner circle, which Jim Collins is talking about. And I think this is thanks as well due to a strong supplier collaboration. So for this, we're working together with Generix. And I'm looking forward to keep working together, right? Floris Wim. So it's important because otherwise we're not able to deliver this. And in the end, what we want to achieve is as well a better or a win-win partnership as well for our customers. And then I'm looking forward to meeting the moment in 2023. So thank you very much.